Hi everyone, welcome to the Cheryl Witha show. We are on episode 12 and we have the bubbly, we have the passionate Thulasi Vikneswaran with us tonight. So as usual, I am not going to talk any further. I'm going to bring in Tulasi. I'm sure all of you are waiting for her. And she tells me that a lot of people will be following today. So I'm a little bit nervous, guys. I'm not like a pro, okay? So but I'm bringing the professional from backstage. So everyone, welcome to Lissy. Hi, Tu.
Hi everyone. Good evening, wherever you are. Hi,
So
Cheryl.
just hi, just share with us where are you tuning in from, and how do you know Tu? For those of your Tu fans, right? How do you guys know Tu? Just share with us, and we are just going to be talking about Tulasi's journey. What is it like, and who Tulasi is, right? Uh, how does she end up where she is right now, and how does she do everything? I think one thing that I find very intriguing about Tulasi is like she's like this iron lady superwoman, like power mom, and this hardcore entrepreneur right now, right? How does she do everything, right? I mean, is it even logical, right? So we want to talk about that, like what goes on behind the scenes, yeah, too. So I'm gonna
Yeah.
like dig a lot of stuff from you tonight.
Ouch. Okay. I hope I do justice to this 1 hour.
Definitely, definitely. So, an interesting fact for those of you who don't know, Tu was my boss. Okay, Tu was my boss. The craziest boss ever. We'll talk about that as well later on. Hi, Matthew. So, Matt is joining us tonight.
Hi,
And
man.
Paul. Hi, Matthew and Call. Let's just say hi to the people who are joining in today. So, if you see me typing in small letters, I apologize. My computer is a bit psycho tonight. So just bear with me. All right, so Tu, let's go right into it, right? Let's talk about Tulasi. And instead of you telling me who you are, I want you to choose one person that knows you really well. It can be anyone, whether it's T or your best friend or your family member. And choose one person that knows you really well. First, do that. Okay, choose one person that knows you really well.
I think in and out, one person who's probably seen the worst and the best in me is T.
Okay, okay, okay.
Yeah.
If he's describing you, what are the three words he'll use to describe you?
Oh, the first word is definitely mental. Like, this this girl has no tangents whatsoever. I think, yeah, and I think the other word would probably be dreamer. Because I always seem to be on this different pedestal when I'm doing things, and he's the grounded one. He's the one that's managing everything on the ground, and then there's me in my unicorn land. He always calls it the pixie land. Thinking that, oh, how nice if, how nice if. And I think the other word that he'll probably describe me is, I guess, passion. Not so much passionate, but lovable. Yeah, very lovable. Yes. Yep.
Think I have to agree. I have to agree with that. I have to agree with that definitely. So, Core, I'm assuming works with you. She says colleague, inspirer, dream maker, iron lady. Yes, superwoman, power mom, and all the time in Technicolor. You want to explain that? Technicolor?
I think she's talking about my hair. but no, but yeah, that's Raj. Raj and I work together. Kind of soul sisters as well. Seen through each other quite good times, bad times. Yeah. So yes, thanks,
Okay.
Raj.
We have Abhi joining us. Abhi is from India, actually, one of our students from India. Thanks for joining us, Abhi. It's nice to see you today. So, when we talk about Tu, right? Tu, that's the impression that you feel someone has of you. Do you think it's accurate? Is there a
Um,
deeper insight to that?
I think everybody gets a different version of me. And you would know this. I mean, we've worked together, and like you
Yeah.
said, at one point, yeah, I was your boss. I don't know how that happened, but yeah, and so you would have seen a different version of me, and my husband gets a different version of me, and my mom gets a different version of me, my brothers as well. But I guess if you talk to all of them, you will hear that you will probably hear about 15 different individuals, and you think I'm bipolar or something. But that's really who I am. I am very different to different people depending on the situation and circumstances. And I think whatever they say would have 100% truth to it, because that's the part that I am showing.
That's a good point, right? A lot of us might have multifaceted parts of us that we show to specific people, like you said, right? Your husband is different, your colleagues are different. So let's kind of get deeper into that. Raj says that larger than life personality, everything is animated, fun, and alive with her approach to work, relationship, and life, and now less than 10. Yes, definitely. We're going to be going into that. But let's like go back a little, and I want to go back to understanding who is this little two, who is still quite little, right? But who is that little two, right? What were you like if we dial back into childhood, right? Who was Tulasi? What was growing up in your household like? What kind of person were you growing up? If you can recall,
um,
it's not that long ago, right?
yeah, I know I can recall because okay, so I grew up with two brothers, one older, one younger, and my mom, Amma, if you're tuning in, you will vouch for this. I think I was the most difficult child growing up because I remember my mom saying, "Thank God I only have one daughter. Thank God I only have one daughter," and that pretty much says it all, right? So the thing is, yeah, who was I? I think I was always that odd puzzle out, even in school I would not do things the right way, because I couldn't understand what was right, what was wrong, I always I challenge things in my own way. Actually, I never go and question, but what I do is I start doing something out of the ordinary, and then it happens to work. And then this is something that my mom, my brothers, and even my family members and friends know. I'm very good at ragging people. so so from a young age, right, I used to do that, and people think it's trend setting, but actually it's not. It's just that I can't see myself doing certain things, so I just choose not to do it. So you might say that I was quite of what's that word, yeah, I wasn't like a abiding child, I always challenged the odds, gave my mother a lot of headache, uh, in contrary to my brothers, they were amazing, so yeah, I was that child. And now when I look at my son, I'm like thinking every time my son does something out of the ordinary, I do this to myself, like that was you. So don't go and scold him because that was you.
Interesting. Interesting. We just have some comments coming in, right? Dr. Tiru says, beautiful soul with larger than life persona. Okay. So fun to be with and full of life and zest. That's why y'all won't believe she's my boss, right? I don't know how she becomes people's bosses. I will share with you guys later on. I think she will share with you on a story later on what kind of boss she is as well, right? The different roles she plays, as she says, right? You still get a bit of that two essence in any role that she has. I think it doesn't run very far from that. We have Balkis saying, Tulasi, you look amazing. And I think this interesting comment from Abhi. She says, Missy, I think my father can relate to what Miss Tulasi said. Glad I only have one daughter. Zesty daughter, fiery daughter, right? So let's go to what you said, right? You said you did not do things in the way that people expected you to do them, right? And how do you think that
Yeah.
translates to you today? That part of you, how does it translate to your life right now?
I think a lot of things have worked in my favor, and I'm blessed for that. And and the reason why it's worked in my favor is also because I'm not the kind of person that settles very easily. I don't get happy or saturated or contented very fast. And if once I've set my mind that this is what it needs to look like, or this is what it should look like. And then that's exactly what I'm going to strive for. Nothing more, nothing less. Don't even think about the more. It's not going to happen. It will just be exactly that. Yeah. So yeah, I think Avi's got a point. Just do it. So that's
Yeah.
why when you ask me what my husband will describe me as, mental was number one, because that's what I do. Even less than 10 was like, woke up one day and decided, you know what, let's do this. And my husband was like, what are you talking about?
So definitely we have to talk about less than 10, but before we go deeper into less than 10, I want people to understand where you're coming from, right? How did less than 10 even kind of appear in your mind, so to speak? And even though overnight it would have come in your mind and you decided to do it, but I'm sure there was a certain journey that you had to go through, or
Yeah.
certain things that sparked that moment up, right? So let's go back to the very beginning when you started, right? So this is something that people who are just getting to know you be like, okay, I don't get this. So you are like this party goer, and then people who know you know like you're this socialite, and then you're like this like you've also been a lecturer sitting in the classroom and you're quite strict from what I hear, but at the same time you're friendly. So like what's going on here? So let's go to that, right? You started in education. So how did two okay, this is very funny because a lot of people assume those people in education, especially in college, uni, international schools, you must have some form of like you fit a certain category, right? You're serious, discipline, not the sort of people that don't follow the rules, obviously, right? So tell me, how did this person who doesn't do things the way people assume or people think you should entered education of all fields, right?
So ironically, my first job was in the banking line,
Yeah.
and my mom and my brothers, they still make jokes about this till today. So when I applied prior to graduation, I entered the banking line, and they had an assessment, right? And you had to
Right.
calculate something per annum, and so
Banking of all things as
yeah,
well.
always,
That's
right?
another.
Yeah, and if anybody who knows me knows that numbers and Thulasi just don't go along, even with the calculator, right? And so, what I did was I actually WhatsApped messaged my mom. I'm like, Amma, what's per annum? Because my mom's a banker, right? So my mother's like, gosh, why are you even sitting in this damn assessment? So, and then, yeah, so 6 months into doing that, I finally applied for my first teaching job as an English teacher in a private school. Because my background was language and linguistics, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So that language has always been my power. I was a debater, I was a public speaker. Language has always been my tool.
The
Yes, and my
superpower.
husband. Yeah, my husband always says this, and a lot of people always says this. You can sell ice to the Eskimo. Wait, you will get the Eskimo to sell ice to other people as well. So
That
yeah,
is a fantastic tool to have as an entrepreneur, definitely, I'm sure.
yeah. So coming back to that, right? So when I entered the education sector, I was one of those people who did not come from an education background. So in
Hmm.
education in Malaysia, you need to do a BEd, a bachelor in education degree. But
Yeah.
because I think I didn't do that bachelor in education degree, I had a very different approach or different view in my classrooms. I wanted things to be practical, because when I could not understand in classroom. That was the basic problem, right? I couldn't understand the textbook. I couldn't understand how was this relevant to my life? How was this relevant to the future? Like until now, I make this joke with my girlfriends. In Form 5, there's a maths chapter that says Bumi sebagai sfera. I'm like, so why did we learn that? Can anybody explain to me at 25 years old why did we learn Bumi sebagai sfera? And we all laugh about it, right?
Yeah,
And that's
yeah, yeah.
essentially it. So the thing is, I think the worst students somehow make the best teachers. And as much as I don't take pride in this, but I was a horrible student in school. I spent most of my time outside the classroom rather than inside, challenging teachers. Teachers were not really fond of me. So today, when I bump into my teachers and I tell them like I'm an educator, they all have like that split second of a heart attack and then like, gosh, gone.
How? How
This
did
one
that
became,
happen, right?
exactly, they're like, this one became an educator. Oh my god. Yeah, so that was the stepping stone, English teacher, and then from there I went on to be a head of department, and then I went into tertiary. That's where I met you, becoming a lecturer, and then eventually I transcended into the corporate world, still in education.
Yeah.
But what I do right now entails like sort of consultancy for certain institutions or ministries, on education as a whole, right? So it's about basically enhancing the education landscape in Malaysia. So that's where I am right now.
So what made so let's talk about this, right? You said much earlier that you never do things the way other people do it, right? You do things very differently. It's not following, and you also mentioned about being not that ideal student in class. I think neither was I. So there are a few of us lecturers. So for those of you out there that are parents, sorry, yeah, some of us don't follow that typical route, right? But as you said, it adds a little dimension to your classes. It makes you more different because you're coming from that different perspective of that student wasn't not that studious kind of student standing in front, and you have a different perspective of how people learn
Yep.
because you learn differently, right? And that adds some dimension to your class. Am I right?
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. Because you weren't that student that one size fits all. So you will not do that to you will not force other students to do the same, right? And so that's when you start embracing diversity in your classroom, right? And understanding that every child comes with their baggage. Every student comes from a different background, and it's your role as an educator to then leverage on that and build on from there, not unpack that, not undo that, but build on from there to make sure that they get something worthwhile from your classroom, right? Yeah.
And I think you have this passion for education that we're going to talk about in a bit. And we have Ruby Wong dialing in, both of our ex students, like quite some time ago, right? So she says, I have to quickly dial in my ex lecturers interviewing one another. Both of us are not in are not doing this right now, right? So she says, my ex lecturer. So, but why still education, right? You've left to go to corporate, but you're still in education. What keeps you in education? What is it about education that is it something that is always something that you've always wanted to do? Because again, coming from that background where you're not exactly that someone who would usually follow that line, and like you said, right, you're different, and you kind of colored out of the box rather than in the box, right? You say color in the box, you'll be coloring outside, am I right? So why?
Yeah, so color in the box, I'm like, what box? Yes, okay. So why education? I think it's because I must say I'm rather privileged. I come from a family that all hold high positions. My uncles, my aunts, they are all professionals. They've always emphasized education from the very start. But somewhere along the way, when I entered varsity, I realized that not everybody had the opportunities that I had.
Yeah,
And that's when I realized that something as basic as education, why are we differentiating it based on status, based on
yeah,
social class, based on whether you can afford it or not? And
correct.
we could afford, my family could afford to send all of us to private education, but yet I did my education until my master's in public
Public.
university. Yeah, and I am proud of that. I'm super proud of that. And that's basically what made me stick on, right? I'm like, I've reached that point because I feel that every child needs to be able to have a level playing field. Okay, and education is a basic necessity, right? And no child should be deprived from it. And I think that's the reason why I'm still here, and I want to continue that fight, because I have a 5-year old. And
Mm.
contrary to everyone's belief, everybody thinks that, oh, she's going to send her kid to a private school. No, I have registered my son in a government school, right? Because, no, I've not lost faith. And I feel that we can still make it, right? In the government schools, the government sectors. We need to drive that change, right? And that change comes from us. I can't be preaching to other people to do it. And then here I am doing the exact opposite, right? Yeah.
Love that. I love that. I think people who know you and have worked with you can understand that fiery part of you, that driving, that change. You have that, and it goes back to what you said earlier about never settling, right? So And I think this even shows in you, from you talking about, the kind of student you are, to the kind of mother and educator you are, what you're doing, what you're saying, and now it's all coming together, and you're saying, hey, I haven't lost faith, because this is what I'm doing, and I'm trying to push forward and say, hey, this is going to happen, and I want to be part of that change. So what, if you look at your experience in education so far, you've been in the education line for quite a while, right? What are some, maybe share with me one experience you can't forget.
Okay, so I visited this school in Terengganu. Okay,
Okay.
I'm not going to tell you where exactly. And I remember this. So I walked in, right, a government school. I just walked in to basically see how things going, because we were implementing a program there. And I remember this. Form one child, form one kids, right? They are in that in between zone of coming from primary and transcending to secondary. And there is form one kid who came to me and he asked me, I'm sorry, what are you? Okay. And so
What are
I,
you?
yeah, so I'm like, okay, how do I answer this question, right? And I realized why he was asking, what are you? Because I could speak BM very fluently, like how the natives speak it. And I could even converse in English as well. And so there was this child thinking, here's this lady who's a little dark skin, blonde hair, walks into my school speaking perfect Bahasa Melayu. Like,
Were you wearing
what?
baju kurung as well?
Yeah, I was wearing baju
To
kurung.
confuse him further?
He was so confused by the end of it. So when he said, so what are you? What are you again? He was like, Miss, what are you? So I said, I'm a Malaysian. And then he just took it like, in his stride, and he was like, oh, a Malaysian. and so and so I would never forget the innocence of that child.
Yeah, yeah.
Be it the lack of exposure or just the confusion he had, like, oh God, this is too complicated for me to handle. But yeah, that innocence that he came with, right? And just asking, not even who are you or where are you from, but what are you?
What are you? Like, which species did you come from? Do you
Yeah.
speak this language, or?
Yeah, so that is always a fun memory, innocent.
But that goes back to the duality of roles you play as well, right? Like we talked about you having this massive passion for education, and then you have this outlook which is like this hip happening, like cikgu ke, like teacher, this is the teacher. The look, right? Like this happening kind of look,
Oh
and people
God,
who know
yeah.
you a little bit deeper. Like if you go back to the social side, here you have the socialite who is, I would say, like happening, life of the party, as someone said earlier, larger than life persona. Let's talk about the roles, right? Let's go deeper into talking about different roles that you play. How do you manage, and what are the roles that you feel that you're currently playing, and how do you manage this? I know there's a long list. How do you manage this multiple roles? Because the two that I know basically is to the lecturer, but I think almost immediately when I met to the lecturer, I also met to the happening girl on the block sort of thing, right? We also met that part of you as well. Okay, and the two that, for those of you, hi Ginny. Ginny is here as well. Ginny Chia. We also met the person who, those of you who know will understand why less than 10 really makes sense. A lot of us who met too, and understands that part of her, the organizing. Oh my god, this woman, the way she organized parties, right? It's crazy. People is like, I want to be her friend, because why? She throws the best parties ever. Like, you better get pregnant while she's around, because she throws you the most amazing bridal showers, and you have to be like in her list, so she'll do them for you. But now, guys, that's the benefit. That's where less than 10 will come in place. She can still do it for you, for a price. But yeah, that expertise that you have, right? And you used to throw the most, I've been for a couple of your, you threw like a bridal shower for one of our colleagues, Shaz, I remember, some time back, right? And then you threw me a party when I left. very weird boss, right? The person resigns. I remember when I wanted to resign, I was taking my paper. I was like, okay, how am I going to break it to her? Like, actually, Tulsi, I have something to tell you. You know, and she's, I was like, actually, I'm going to resign. Then she's like, oh, cool. Where are you going? I'm so happy for you. And I'm like, okay. I was like, I'm still not going to resign. You know, like, did you hear me right? Is that all right? And why I'm telling you about me resigning is because she threw me a farewell party, which I will let her explain further, okay, once she wants to
Oh
record.
God.
But it will give you an insight into the different roles that she plays. In my case, I think two is my boss. The same time, you were a friend, which was a very and talking about duality of roles must be very difficult to play those roles, right? Let's talk about that a little, right? How do you play a role as a, and I won't call you a boss, I will call you a leader. There's a difference, right? I would call you a leader. How do you play that role as a leader and still be someone's friend? I think and you were quite new, right, to
Yeah.
leading and and still wanting to hold that role, because I'm sure, what was your experience like? What did people, I'm sure people were telling you too, you're a boss, be a boss, forget about the friendship part. I'm sure people told you that. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I think when I everywhere I go and I take up leadership roles, right? The biggest challenge is always age. People always tell me that, oh, you're so young. You know, what do you
So young,
know?
so young.
Yeah, and people have called me flaky to my face. You know, they say you're so flaky. You're this young thing. You know, how many years of experience do you have? And I don't take it. I mean, I don't get offended at all. Let me tell you, because I can't blame them, right? They've been some of them. Some of the people I've had over my lifetime reporting to me have been twice, three times my age. You know, and I think what I always do when I take up leadership roles is I always remember that we were subordinate, basically the leader subordinate relationship. So what I do is I look at circumstances, which situations require me to be a leader and which situations require me to be a friend. And when you know how to identify that and you know how to manage that, it becomes a lot easier to run everything, because you have people on your side. People know you understand them on a deeper level, and you're not doing this just because you're a corporate slave. You know, there is some amount of understanding, empathy, sympathy, right, and all of that comes in. So I think it really works in my benefit. You know, juggling between being a leader and being a friend. It always works in my benefit. You just need to know when to wear which cap. Yeah.
Think that's a very good point, right? Having those dual roles, just knowing how to switch when you
Yeah.
need to switch. It doesn't mean you have to be one or the other all the time, right?
No.
Knowing
Yeah.
how to switch, that's the key, I believe, right? And
Yes.
I think you've done, anyway. When I worked with you, you did a fantastic job, and I think the fact that you still have the people who worked with you and as your subordinates, okay, still have that very strong relationship with you as well, tells you a lot about that. If not, once you bye bye, you're like bye bye, bye bye boss.
Yeah, that's
That's
true.
it, right?
You know.
So
Yes.
let's go into the other roles, right? So you have that whole social, your would you call yourself a social butterfly?
Oh yes. I will. I think that feeds my energy overall. There are days that I just want to slam the door shut and not talk to the world.
Yeah.
But majority of my days are like, let's go, let's party, let's go. So
And how does that now work with your role at work, whichever job or whichever role that you're playing at the workplace, right? How do you manage that roles, the being very social? And when I mean social, not just personality wise, but you like to go out there and have fun and party and things like that. At the same time, here you are a leader in your workplace and things like that. How do you manage, or how do you merge those roles? What happens? What's the process like?
So I think what a lot of people, I've had people ask me questions as well, like this, Cheryl. When I advertised your talk show, they were all like, "Okay, we only have one question. How do you do it? How do you do it?" And here's the reality of things. I'm going to talk about the reality of things.
Yeah,
They always say it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a
yeah,
village to run a family. I have that village, right? And I'm blessed in that way. I have a support system that is so intact, that is so well organized, and it's divided proportionately, that I really gives me a lot of space to do what I'm doing. So let me just start. Like, for example, right? Let's start with my mom, right? She's always been the pillar behind everything, and I must say she's always been there throughout my pregnancy, my son, always, right? And yeah, so she's one person. And then, of course, my husband, he's always stepping in from whenever I have like less than 10 orders, or we need to do things. And yes, I do the forefront of less than 10, but everybody doesn't know that the back end of less than 10 is my husband T. He's churning out all the invoices, he's doing all the finances,
mhm,
because like I said, numbers and me. So, yeah, so he makes sure that these things are running. And then I've got brothers as well. I've
yeah,
got my younger brother who steps in when I need. So I have all these people, like my best friends, my girlfriends, my inner circle, who they all play different roles at
yeah, yeah,
different times, different junctures. So I don't really, yes, it is a balancing act, right? But
definitely.
it's really not possible if I don't have all this in place, Cheryl. And that's the reality of things. So when people ask me, how do you party one day and wake up and go to work and giving training sessions on another day, doing corporate on one day, then doing catering on another day? So it's really about that. It's about
Balance.
dividing and conquering. Yeah, making those, my brains is compartmentalized. I compartmentalize everything in my life, from relationships to work to friends to just talk about it, right? Everything
Yeah,
is compartmentalized, and in those compartments there are other compartments as well. So that's what I do, and I think that's the reason why it looks seamless to a lot of people, but there's
yeah.
a lot happening up here.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I guess a lot of things happen behind the scene, like you said, right? There's those roots holding you up and helping you do the things you do. Like me, like I'm sitting and having this show, and both of us have a 5 year old, right? And
Yes.
our 5 year olds are out there somewhere, right? But you know, but without I mean, when you do your trainings or when you go out to do your catering, you need that support, you need that help, you need someone to step in, and you have that support, right? So a lot
Yes.
of people assume that it just happens like you said, and I think it's important for people to know that there is something happening in the background. You do have help, and we can be a superwoman per se, but we still need our super warriors, our cheerleaders at the background, right? Cheering us on, whether it's for moral support, emotional support, and whatnot. So, guys, those of you who are asking that question before this, right, who were saying that a lot of people are wondering, how does this Iron Lady do it all? I think it's important for us to, take our hats off to Tu's mom. Tu's mom, thank you very much. uh, we were able to have to a lot because of all your help, and your kakak. I remember your kakak as well. And
Yes, oh God, my kakak. I love my kakak to bits, man. Yeah, by the way, my kakak's no longer here. She's back in
yeah,
Indonesia. So,
yeah.
yes. Yeah.
We're talking about kakak. When before two was married, two used to bring and tell us about all these adventures about food with her kakak, right? So
Yeah, yeah. Ironically, right, my kaka and my mom had a lot to do with, and my aunt, Auntie Uma, had a lot to do with my food journey and less than
yes,
10. So maybe
yes,
I'll talk about that a little later. Yeah.
definitely. We have a question from Ruby. Would be helpful if you both talk about how you juggle through work-life balance. I think, yeah, that's an important question to address, right? Modern day work environment had become more demanding, especially with option to work from home. Yeah, that's a very, very good question. How do you balance that out? Before you answer that question, guys, just to let you know, after we both left our former workplace and I was in my new workplace, two used to travel all the way from Rawang to Nilai, where I currently work, and she used to come and and give a talk exactly about this work life balance. Like, how do you still manage to have a life as two, right, Tulasi, and still be that corporate person, still, be a, I think a lot of women struggle with that too,
Yeah.
being yourself, right?
Being a
Still
mom,
being,
being a sister, being a daughter,
yes,
yeah, being
being a
everything the
wife.
world wants you to be.
Correct. And a lot of people talk about this, right? How difficult it is to manage those roles, right? So, especially with work from home, a lot of us are still working from home.
Yeah.
Some of us have gone back to work, but with that addition of working from home, even though it offers flexibility, how do you balance that out? What do you do to create that
Um,
balance?
I'm smiling at Ruby's question because just this morning, I was in a 3 hour meeting, and
Yeah.
this was me, okay, at home today. Uh, in my laundry room, okay, the laptop is there, the meeting is running, and I'm drying my laundry. Okay. And then, my boss tells me, Tulasi, what do you think about this? And then I'm like, stop drying, unmute. Yeah. So basically, I'm presenting what I need to present. And then after that, they say thank you and all. And then I mute and then I go back and continue hanging my laundry while I'm listening to everyone. Right. I really think, right, it's a lot of multitasking. A lot of uh, time management. So when I wake up, the first thing in the morning, right, what's running in my head is, of course, first, thank you, God, thank you, Lord, thank you, universe, that I'm still alive. And then before I can even move an inch, right, the first thing I do is I'm on my phone looking at what are the first meetings I have, what are the things I can do in between those meetings, like cleaning the house, laundry, my son's pick up and drop off. So yes, I don't have a maid here at home. I handle everything by myself, and my husband, of course. And my husband travels a lot as well. So I'm already plotting the day in my head and what needs to happen, right? And so in this agenda, there will also be my nights out, and what time I'm going to come back and how I'm going to recover from that hangover the next day and then continue with the day, So yeah, so a lot of multitasking, prioritizing, right? You need to
Yeah,
prioritize. And I do this a lot at work and also at home. What needs to be looked at first, what can wait, what is not a matter of life and
that's a
death,
good
right?
point.
Yeah, correct. And you need to ask yourself at one point, right? So, what's the worst that will happen if I don't do this? Like, really, what's the worst? So, on days that, I'm not even kidding, there are days my house doesn't even look like a house anymore. Uh, and you ask yourself, so what's the worst that can happen? You have a
Yeah,
child who will go to school with stained clothes, or you will have a husband who will go to work with a crumpled shirt, or someone who can't look for something in the laundry, the beds are not made. So what? Right? Something's
yeah,
got to give. We're not
yeah, that's a good point.
yeah, we're not superhumans. We're not super woman. We're not, I won't use the word Wonder Woman because I'm always wondering also. So, but, that's the thing, right? Essentially, it's that, do not be afraid to let certain things slide. And it's okay.
Yeah,
Don't punish yourself. I remember when I first had my son, right? I wanted to be this mom lah, can I be honest? No devices. First 2 years, no salt in the food. Okay. And then after that, must after the fully breastfeeding, I was like, you know what? The world can go and do what they want, right? I left all the mother groups on Facebook and Instagram
that's
because they were
stressful,
stressing me
right?
out. Yes, they were
Super
stressing me out.
stressful.
Exactly. And I told, and I, and in my son's first birthday, I remember I had a beer can at home and I was chasing my husband and saying, Ayo, you kept this person alive for 1 year. Cheers to
We
us.
survived.
Okay, alive for 1 year. So that's what we do. Every time my son has a birthday, it's like, yay, 5 years, yay. And I
We
think
achieved this. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. And I really think we should stop being afraid
yeah,
of letting go of
yeah,
losing certain battles. It's fine, it's completely human. Stop punishing yourself.
yeah,
And you're just human, right? So comes back to that same thing. Don't be afraid to ask for help. I have so many times shamelessly gone to my mom, to my friend Nat, Nat, if you're listening, Rupini, you just name it. My inner circles, they all know, right? I'll be like, yo, can you pick up my son? Yo, can you take care of my son 2 hours? I got a meeting to go to in the office.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid. What is that? Everybody is having their different battles, right? Today they
Yeah.
step up for you, tomorrow you step up for them, right? Yeah.
You have a very cute son as well. It's like the Astro Awani person. She's maintaining her composure. She's not making any reactions. Continuing, but yeah, very cute son. Definitely, I think the reality of it is, regardless of what people see on the screen, there's a lot of things going in the background, and the reality is we do have days where we can't be completely on point in everything, right? And it's okay. I completely agree with you, and I agree with you by saying, I think a lot of mothers and fathers can agree with this. We kept them alive, and I'm sure our parents are like, hello, we kept three of you alive, okay, at the same time. And so heads off to our mothers, right? I don't know how they did that, man. I really like, we deal with one or two, they deal with three at one go, and they're all the same ages. I really don't know how they do that. We only have 20 minutes left, so I cannot let you go without discussing about less than
Less
10.
than 10. Yes.
Definitely. So before we go into less than 10, there's one thing I want to ask you, right? Less than 10, right? So we know you have I think I've told you this before you started less than 10, right? I was like, hey, why don't you do this as a career? You're really good at it. I think I've told you this before as well. I was like, you just have a knack of, like, throwing parties and making people feel so loved and welcome. And I think that's how a lot of us feel when we come for any of your gatherings, right? It's like so lucky. We're like, we're invited to Tu's house, like, yes, like, it's amazing to be part of your any of your gatherings and things like that, right? Because you put so much of thought into it, so much of thought into the planning, and every single detail you look into that, right? So what made you go from something, I know you I mean, you love doing this, right? But what made it go from I love doing it to actually making it into a business, right? What was that turning point? What made that happen? What was that spark?
I think the spark came when I was frustrated. Okay, so as much as I love hosting parties and cooking and all of it, I absolutely dreaded the cleaning. The cleaning, the putting back of plates, and etc. etc. So I think the epiphany came when I thought that there were some parties I wanted to do, and I'm like, you know what, it's okay lah, let's cater. I'm not hosting them for the first time. Let's cater. And when I go to these caterers, right, they all come back to, oh, there's a minimum order of 10, or there's a minimum order of 15. Some
Yeah.
even go 20, right? 20 packs. And then
25.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then some they do this. Oh, we only take orders in 5, 10s, 15s. So I was like, okay, so if I have 7 guests,
Let's
what do I
cut off
order?
two people.
Yeah. So I order 5, then there's not enough food, and then if I order
Yeah.
10, there's excessive amount of food. So every time I order for parties, right, my neighbors end up eating for free. So because I need to pack things off, right? Then they're not
Yeah.
going to,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not food. I don't want to waste, right? So that's
Yeah.
when I
Correct.
thought, like, imagine how many other frustrated individuals like me, like, they want to have people over, and especially with the pandemic, right? You just hate the idea of going out, making reservations, finding
Correct.
a parking, and
I don't even
all
know
of
if it's
that.
going to be safe. There's so much of things to worry about.
And then that's that issue of this Instagrammable places. They come out on TikTok and Instagram and all, but when you go to and pay for the food, you pay for like atrocious things, right? I've been
And it
so
doesn't even taste
frustrated before.
nice.
Yeah, it doesn't taste nice. And Cheryl, I mean, not to sound cocky or anything, but I've been to highly rated restaurants and send dishes back to the chef, right? I don't advertise, I don't mention, because for me, if it's good, share. If it's bad, tell them. There's no point of you
Yeah. Yeah.
advertising it, right? It's not going to fix it. And I've sent it because I'm like, so I mean, I'm sorry, I'm paying 50 ringgit for what again? Yeah. So that's when all this frustration over the years, the build up, and I told myself, you know what? If I'm feeling this way, I'm pretty darn sure
Yeah.
there are a lot of
Yeah.
other people
Yeah.
feeling the same way, right? And so I told my husband, let's do this. Let's test the market first. Let's see if there's a market, right? And by golly, we started in January, Cheryl,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I've not had a
A free
day
weekend.
free weekend since January. In fact, I haven't advertised on my less than 10 page. I told them there were a couple of dates available for June. I'm so sorry, everyone. June is also fully taken up. So there are only dates in July now, and that's also slowly filling up. And it works so well for people, right? Because I've even had couples who
Yeah.
just tell me, my husband and I, we just want to eat something, and so what we do is we personalize it, right? So I remember there was this couple who said they wanted a few dishes from us, and so what we did was we were like, okay, actually it's a lot if you order for 4 people. Why don't I pack it separately for you, and I'll label it with freezing instructions, so you put it in the freezer, and so you can have this again in another 3 months, right? And they were so taken aback by it. They absolutely love the idea. And it's
Yeah.
all these personal touches, right? And that's why I say I need my husband, because in the forefront of this business, I do exactly what I do in my home with my customers, right?
Yeah.
Everything from the things I purchase for the parties in my home is exactly the same. There's no double
Same.
standards, there's no cutting corners. What you pay for is exactly what you get, if not more. And this is why my husband has to be there, lah, because if not, we'll be making
Oh boy.
tremendous losses.
We'll be making losses instead of profits, right?
Yeah, so this is where he comes in, right? He's like, are you kidding?
Do you
So
really need that? Do you really need to use that cutlery?
yeah, so then that's when I also realized people like the idea of, I want to host parties, but I don't want to do anything. And caterers always have a lot of rules and regulations, and they don't
Yeah.
necessarily rent out the best tableware. So then we added on this other option. Look,
Yeah.
giving the option of ordering food from us is one. The next one is, of course, if you want us to come and set up, a setting for you with our tableware, our glassware, and everything is glass. We don't use plastic, right? Let us know. You just pay the additional amount, and we will come. We will set up, and once you're done, call us, and we will clean up and go. It's like a party never happened in your house, right? So you're just there, you're happy, you're entertaining people, you're
So
not
it's
washing
fuss
glasses.
free. It's like fuss free partying lah. You
Yeah,
get all the
exactly.
benefits of partying without all the stuff that you dislike.
Correct. And you get class. So if you look at our less than 10 page, the places that we've, the events that we put a setup on, it looks rather presentable with name cards and, dishes, menu labeled and all of that, with food warmers, and all of that. So it is very presentable. Our customers have been very happy. We've gotten so many return customers, a bunch of new customers. And the best part is we're pork free. I can't say we're halal because our signature tiramisu has alcohol in it. We do a non-alcoholic option as well, but that's the reason why I can't call us halal. But yes, pork free, and I think pork free, hassle free, everything free.
So except the food is not free, yeah, guys. Just to let you all know.
Yes.
But guys, just to let you know, I don't know if you can see the background of the image that we are on. That is actually less than 10. Some of the food, if you look at it, it looks like some corporate setting. You go to the hotels and the buffets and stuff like that. So you can actually have like a hotel buffet. I mean, why a lot of us like to go for buffets, besides the fact that the food is a lot and all that, is that it has a beautiful setting and plating.
The
That's why a lot of people like to
ambience.
go for those. Yes, the
Yeah.
ambience, right? So
Yeah.
imagine bringing this to your home. And I think now everyone understands when you said you can sell anything, right? So yeah, maybe there's a career for her in sales as well, I think. uh, definitely in PR. Definitely in PR and sales, definitely. So less than 10. Let's talk about the name, right? So I think you've given us a little bit of insight to the name as well, indirectly, right? So why 10? Is it because of the 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 fact that you cannot find caterers who will be doing? I understand this because when we worked in KL previously, remember, we were very small company. I mean, we started
Yeah.
off with very little staff,
Yes.
and it used to be impossible to find caterers willing to do
Exactly.
10, 15, 20, even 20. Like
Yeah.
minimum, like we said, was 25. So is that is it about the numbers, the less than 10?
I think it's a very niche, untempered market.
Okay.
I'm not competing with the big guys. That's not my competition. That's not my priority as well. I again, remember I said that I always do things out of the ordinary. Yeah. So this is again out of the ordinary. Because yes, the target market is that, right? So even if you're calling up and telling me, "Too, I just want this particular set meal for one person," I will do it, right? Of course, you have to bear the delivery charges and all. So usually, what people do, because the delivery charges apply, then they will just say, "Naman, you give me for two portions, lah, I'll keep and eat," which is fine, right? I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, if it's good food, you can keep it, you can have it over a couple of days. Yeah. And I will advise, usually, like we will advise, we will tell them what can last, what can't. So we're very personalized in that way. It's not something the big guys are going to tell you. They're just going to tell you, yeah, you just order whatever, or fill up a form, right? Yeah. So we don't do that. Yeah, I think that's the reason why the name stuck less than 10, because that's our target market. Yeah.
So when you talk about, I mean, you hear the word personalization used by every business actually, or everyone lah. Anything from remote learning to teaching and education to businesses. And when it comes to personalization, you really mean personalization. You're actually sitting, in a way, you're doing consulting, right? You're consulting your client, you're finding out what their needs are, what they want, and really catering it. So I think one thing interesting you mentioned was that you do it even for couples, and I think that is a problem sometimes when you just want to have like a nice dinner with your
Yeah.
partner, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, or best friend, or girls, the girls night out,
Just
just
night.
four five
Yeah.
of you, and you don't really want to go out. And that's where you come on board, right? So even for two people, that's really interesting. I think less than 10, like really two,
Yes.
just two, and even one. Wow. Even one? So,
Yeah.
okay,
So
what
that's why
about, mhm, go
people
ahead.
get very surprised. They get shocked. They're like, really? You do? How do you even break even? And I tell them, look, breaking even is my problem. It's not yours, right? Your problem is you want to be fed, correct? So let's focus on your problem, and, don't worry about my problem. We'll handle
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
correct. Sorry,
That's
Shirley.
interesting. What about families and like a kid friendly menus and stuff like that? Because a lot of people, I mean, stuff for them to go out with kids, especially with COVID, right? COVID-19, and
Yes,
you
yeah,
started your business basically as, I mean, we had not even finished. Have we finished lockdown? But at a point of time where we're just recovering, right, from the whole COVID
yeah,
19 and things like that. I mean, it's still there, but we're living with it,
yeah.
sort of thing. And how does that impact your business? Does it make it better because of people were being worried about going out?
Um, yeah, I guess so. It has worked on to my advantage. And I think what people also find to be very mafan, to be honest, is when you go out as a group and you want to be seated as a group. A lot of places don't necessarily accommodate, 10 people being seated at one table. Then you end up splitting tables, and also, again, it's that added advantage of throwing parties at the comfort of your home. And I
Yes.
know people with kids, because I have a child, and I absolutely enjoy dining in someone else's house rather than a restaurant with my son. Reason being, my
Yeah.
son's more at ease. I don't need to worry about him running into a waiter carrying hot stuff. So it's all these things, right? So
Yeah.
I think it comes from that mom aspect as well. Like, so why do this, right? Yeah. So basically, it's that. Yeah.
So you also do kid friendly menus, right? I mean,
Yes,
you have to answer.
we personalize it. Our personalization is crazy. We've had people who've told us, look, my dad's a heart patient, so go slow on the oil. And so what we do is we change up the oil. We use other options, right? We either swap in coconut oil or anything that's a lot more healthier, lesser salt. We've had people who say that, can you make it less sweet? Because so and so is a diabetic patient.
Diabetic.
We can, like, really, because you see, that's the benefit of less than 10, because you're cooking for 10 people, right? You can personalize it however you want, right? And I think that's the beauty about this, essentially. Yeah.
Okay, okay, that's amazing. I'm so happy to hear about this. I mean, about your new venture, and I think a lot of us out there are really happy for you that you're doing this. I mean, to solve a problem, definitely, but also because you're really good at doing it, and I think it's good skills put to the test, definitely. So I'm so happy about that. I want to address one more thing before we close for the night. Yeah, it's we only have 6 minutes less. I as usual, 1 hour just passes by like that, right? So, and we haven't even like touched everything, right? Just layers, right?
Yeah.
Certain layers of who you are and what you do. What do you say to people out there who have a passion or feel like they can contribute and start something, and especially with you like juggling the many roles, like how do you take that first step to do something like this? How do you take that first step, especially?
I think the best advice I ever got was from my friend Nurul. Nurul, if you're tuning in, yes, Nuruline. Because when I first had this epiphany about less than 10, I went to her, and she's a businesswoman
Yeah,
herself. And I think the best advice she gave me was, look, uh, if it feels right, do it. Don't sit down, don't procrastinate, because that idea will soon become someone else's one, right?
that's
And
a
at
good
that
one.
point, don't sit down and cry and say, damn it, I should have acted on it
I
when I
had
was.
that idea first.
Yes, exactly. So she said, and she told me this, right? And I remember we had this conversation, and it was right after meeting her that night itself, we launched the less than 10 page. Right? Yeah. So she was like, do it. Why are you stopping? What's stopping you? Like,
Yeah,
do it.
yeah,
Yeah. So,
yeah.
like what Balkis mentioned just now, yeah, and also Avi mentioned, yes, the do it attitude is so me, lah. Oh my God. Yeah. It's like, just do it. Think about failing on later. Just do it.
So, what would you say have has been the biggest challenge so far when it comes? I mean, less than 10 is less than 6 months old, right? This year, right?
Yeah.
January, less than 6 months old. What was your biggest challenge, and what is your biggest triumph so far in the last 5 months or so? It's a very something very new, right? What's your
Yeah.
biggest challenge
The
and triumph?
biggest challenge is because I do not have an F&B background. So the biggest challenge was, of course, like sourcing things, pricing, the back end of things. Because I don't have that experience. That's definitely the biggest challenge. The biggest triumph is, I guess, actually having this overwhelming line of orders. I hate saying no, and I hate turning down people.
I know that about you.
Yeah, you know this about me, right? I'm always yes, yes, we can do it. Yes, we can
Can
do it.
can
Like,
we'll find a way.
yeah, somebody says to Lucy, let's take over the world. I'm like, yes, we can do it. Uh, yeah, I think that's my and I don't like saying no, but my husband has pointed it out to me. Look, this is a positive problem. If we are
Yeah.
turning down people, it's just a sign of growth, and we need to expand. And so we do have an expansion plan in the pipeline sooner rather than later. Yeah, and if it keeps going as good as what it is, I think we're definitely going to move on to something bigger. So watch this space.
So hopefully, for those of us who live like in the jungle area outside Klang Valley, where nobody sends stuff to us, she will expand outside Klang Valley. Hopefully soon. I know you. I know now you're based in Klang Valley. Klang Valley. Any like previews on what is the expansion? What sort of expansion can we expect?
We're looking at expanding our working days. Basically, let's start from there. So now we currently only taking orders on Saturdays and Sundays. That's because I still have a full time job, everybody. So if we're going to go we're going to go to onto infringe onto other days because we've got a
Yeah.
lot of corporate inquiries in the past couple of
Yes.
months. So which means our team, less than 10, is going to expand. It can't be just me and my husband running the show anymore. So which means we'll
Definitely.
be open to hiring personnel and all of that. Yeah.
So now potential job offers coming in, right? The boss role again will start opening up,
Oh
right?
God, yes.
So Natalie says, "Too bold, empathy, and the most beautiful soul I have in my life." Wow, proud of your achievements of yesterday, today, and tomorrow from your number one fan. I think soon you'll have to open a public Facebook page. Instead of less than 10, it have to be Tulasi's fans. North, south, east, or west. Tulasi is the best. I think that can be like the Pachukang thing, right? What
That's so
something in
Kevin, by the
Batam,
way.
right? Kevin, hi to Kevin. Also an educator that doesn't fit the typical mold, right? Kevin Lawrence, also an educator that doesn't fit the typical mold. Santini says, awesome, Tulasi. We've come to the end of the show. Uh, have you, one more thing, right? The triumph. What would you say your biggest triumph is?
Overall or for less than 10?
Let's talk less than 10 and then let's go overall.
I think overall it's just making it this far in life. With whatever that was set out in front of me, making the best of every moment, seizing everything, and everything that's good or bad. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's just yeah. I'm just blessed for all of this. Less than 10, the biggest triumph was actually just starting up that Instagram page, lah, Cheryl. You know,
That first
uh,
step. That's the hardest actually,
yeah,
right?
yeah, that's the hardest
First to
because
go
you
like,
don't know
okay, let's do it.
what is going to do and whatever lah, what's the worst that can happen again? That question, right? Yeah. so, yeah. I guess that's the biggest triumph.
I missed this comment out. Nana says, when women support each other, incredible things happen. Way to go,
Thanks.
ladies. Yeah, I think there's a lot of women surrounding you. I mean, I see a lot of women surrounding you, and a lot of people like to say women are toxic lah. Women don't support each other, and I think maybe that has happened before, perhaps in some people's life. But I think women
Yeah,
are becoming more and more that empowering role in each other's life, and that's lovely to see. I see that in your circle as well.
yeah,
And
myself
that's
is positive.
amazing. That support. That support. Suran Thevan said, wash hands, wash hands, wash hands. I think it's the emoji. I hope to meet Tulasi someday. Kevin, why are you not meeting Tulasi now? Is it that she's so booked? I know. You have to like for friends of Tulasi, understand now. Now you've seen the back end, right? Of the office, Tulasi's office, the back end. Now you know why scheduling appointments with her, social
Oh
even is.
God, don't say about that.
I can agree to that. This is like I think when we met Tulasi 5 6 years ago. More than 6 7. I think I know you must be like
10 years
10
now,
years
I
now.
think. Yeah.
And scheduling even back then before she started less than 10, right? Scheduling an appointment to like meet her just for coffee, yeah, is tough.
Oh God.
She's like,
Okay.
this weekend cannot lah. I already have a appointment book. Next weekend, what about end of June? I'm like, huh? End of
Oh
June?
God, Cheryl, I'm so embarrassed about that. I'm sorry, guys. My friends all will agree with you right now.
But I think this is the way we should live, and I hope you guys are inspired by Tu's journey. It's proof out there that we can do all that we want, but understanding, right, that there is going to be limitations. It's not going to be all the way perfect, and that's fine. And as one of our friends said, right, Tu has that just go do it attitude. Just do it. And then we deal with it as time goes on, right? But I
Yeah.
agree with Tu too. The support system is so crucial, right? Because if not, half the things that you want to do, you won't be able to do. So, yeah, don't suffer in silence, basically. Reach
Yeah,
out.
actually don't. Why are we suffering in silence? I don't see the point.
Definitely, definitely. So, any last words to our audience before we close for the night?
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Cheryl, for this opportunity. And I think no last words per se, but again, just remember that everyone you see on social media, they are only human. We all, of course, are going to show you our good side. We're not going to show you the sides that where we're dying, we're crying, we're having a breakdown, a meltdown, right? Or losing the plot with our children.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, yeah. So I think it's so important to just keep it real. I'm not gonna sit down here and tell you, oh, I have this fantastic Beverly Hills 90210 life. But it's all about keeping it real, and don't be afraid. Basically, we've all got nothing to lose. We've got this one life. We've got one chance. To make it right, to make it big, to make it count. So yeah, do whatever it takes, right? And seize it.
Amen to that. Amen to that. Definitely. So you set your path. I think that's an important message. And I just said that this morning. I was speaking to some ladies for a woman conference, and some men as well. And I said to them, you decide your path, right?
Yep.
Whether it's good or bad, you decide it. So it's up to you where your steering wheel goes. Is up to you. You can't blame anyone else. You decide the part. What is it that you want to design? And Tulasi has shown us that it's possible. There is reality happening behind it, and it's okay. But seize the day, just do it, and don't wait. And the best time I think is now.
Now,
What he
now.
says. Middle of the night also doesn't matter. It's like let's just do it because once you start, then
It's
everything will just
nice.
the
Correct.
universe will conspire to help you in all that you put your mind to and that determination. And I think that has shown for two and it's happened for me as well. So all the best to everyone. Good night and uh, continue to inspire freedom, Tulasi, with everyone that you meet. Uh, I love the fact that we had a chance to meet and we are friends. And I hope that people listening in will be inspired by Tu's journey. So good night, and we will see you. The next round will be in June. All right. Good night,
Thank
guys.
you, everyone.
Bye.
Good night.
I'll see you backstage too. Good night. Bye, everyone.